Yo, what's up, everybody? I'm Bob Walters. This is Locked Up Sports. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, you can always find us anywhere you get your podcasts or at lockedupsports.net and always on YouTube for any episode, anytime. Thank you for joining. We will wrap up a wild card weekend that was kind of right? Not many great games. It was salvaged last night by a good finale. Washington and Tampa coming down to the end. Washington winning that one. And one more game to play tonight between the Rams and the Vikings from Arizona due to the fires out in L.A. But we start with breaking news out of Dallas, and it involves the Jets and their coaching search, and it's Mike McCarthy out as Dallas Cowboys head coach. He will not be re-signed, re-upped. They couldn't come together on numbers and years and on contract. So McCarthy is out, and he is now on the free agent market as far as head coaches go. And you got to look to the Jets, right? Are the Jets going to... Rodgers, he has a history with Rodgers. He won a Super Bowl with Rodgers. Will the reunion happen? Will Rodgers now come to the Jets and say, hey, I want one more year if you could bring in McCarthy? Listen, I'm not a big McCarthy guy, but it's something that has to be done. If the Jets are going to do their due diligence on the coaching search, which they seem to have been doing so far, then you have to put McCarthy on the list, and you have to bring him in for at least an interview. See what he feels about the job, see what you feel about him as a head coach, and I believe that the Jets will do that. Now, I don't think McCarthy would be a real great fit here in New York. I can't put my finger on what it is that I don't like about McCarthy. Now, he's underachieved in Dallas. He hasn't been great since he won the Super Bowl, but he is a Super Bowl winning coach, and those are not very, there's a small group of coaches that are Super Bowl winning coaches that are out there available still looking to coach, and Mike McCarthy is one of them. So the Jets are going to obviously bring him in. Now, will he get the job? Who knows? Does he even want the job? Nobody knows. This just happened in the last hour or two. He's not coming back to Dallas, which is a surprise to me. And if you watch the show, because I've told you that I thought McCarthy was going back to Dallas. I thought it wasn't the right move. I thought he'd be better off, out there. But it also opens up now the Dallas Cowboys head coaching job, which is a very appealing head job for any coach. Dallas Cowboys head coach is a premier job in this country for football coaches. And there's talk, of course, of Belichick getting out of his deal at North Carolina and coming. There's all kinds of rumors out there. Like I said, it just happened about 2 hours ago. The only thing that has happened is McCarthy is out as the coach of the Cowboys. So big news there. Will the Jets? I mean, listen, there's also talk of Tomlin leaving Pittsburgh, which I don't think that's going to happen. I think they're crazy in Pittsburgh if they get rid of Tomlin. 18 straight winning seasons, and you're talking about getting rid of him? And there's fans out there that are saying, no, he's get him out of here, he can't win the big one. This team could have had, Vince Lombardi as the coach. They weren't going into Baltimore and beating the Ravens. They probably didn't even belong in the playoffs. And Tomlin got them there. They go to the playoffs every year. If you have Tomlin as your coach, if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, for the last 18 years, every Sunday, you sat down and got to watch a meaningful football game. And if you're a Jets or Giants fan around here, you know that doesn't happen very often here anymore. And that's important. Super Bowls are hard to win. Playoff games are hard to win. You don't win one every year. There's reason why the Chiefs are so special now. Why what the Patriots did was so special. Because it doesn't happen. And for you to only want that, well, you're being too greedy. If you could have someone like Tomlin, and Pittsburgh, I think, knows this because the Rooneys have been doing this forever. They've had 3 coaches in the last, 100 years. And they know that Tomlin is a top of the line, future Hall of Fame coach, probably will win another Super Bowl. Whether it's with Pittsburgh or not, I don't know. But I don't think Tomlin's going anywhere. But McCarthy is. So now McCarthy's he's on the market. He's there. The Jets can get him if they want him. If they go after him, are they going to go after him hard? I don't know if he's the guy here for New York. And you can't just look at the Rodgers McCarthy thing because the Jets aren't winning a Super Bowl next year. I don't care what you say. Rodgers is not the same quarterback that he was when he was playing and winning a Super Bowl with McCarthy. And McCarthy can't turn Rodgers back into that quarterback. No coach can turn Rodgers back into that quarterback because he's just older. Those days are over. Rodgers can still be a good quarterback, a decent quarterback, but he's not going to be Rodgers, no matter who the coach is. So you could dream of things like that if you're a Jets fan. That's not going to happen. The question is, do you want Mike McCarthy as your coach for the next 5 to 10 years? And that's long past Aaron Rodgers being your quarterback. That's maybe having Aaron Rodgers next year and then starting over and having McCarthy there as you rebuild and you revamp a program and a team and a franchise that has really done nothing in the last 60 years. Is that who you want as your guy? And to me, he doesn't seem like a New York kind of guy. He's kind of low key. It's just his demeanor. Not saying he's not a good football coach. He is. Mike McCarthy's a good football coach. He's underachieved in Dallas. He's not a top, he's not Belichick and Parcells and that level of coach, but he's not a bad coach. Now, the Tomlin thing, forget about the Tomlin thing. Until the Steelers say, we're offering him up for a trade or we're firing Mike Tomlin, which they are not going to say, forget about Tomlin. McCarthy, I don't know if I would want him here, to be honest with you. But he is a big name. He was the Dallas Cowboys coach for, a number of years. Not with much success. But he is a big name. Like I said, he's a Super Bowl winning coach, and you got to bring a Super Bowl winning coach in. At minimum, you got to bring him in to interview. And I think the Jets will do that because they do seem to be doing their due diligence. They do seem to be doing the right thing as far as the process of hiring a coach goes. Now, again, they're still looking for GMs. They interviewed 4 guys yesterday, apparently, for the GM position. 4 guys in 1 day. Who's going to get that gig? I don't know. You could still go the conventional route of hiring a GM and letting him hire the coach. But I don't think Woody Johnson's going to do that. So it is what it is. He's out there. It's now a name that's out there. It's a big name. But you also got to realize now the Dallas Cowboys job is open too. So all the coaches that you're going after, they also might have an option to go to the Cowboys. And that's a much better job than the Jets. Right? The Cowboys they're a team that's, it's not a rebuild situation. You got a quarterback. They're okay. They're kind of on the cusp of being a playoff team. And we'll see what they go, where we go from here. But it's an interesting wrinkle now thrown in with Mike McCarthy available, the Jets coaching position available, and we'll see when they bring him in. I would imagine that you'll hear of McCarthy coming in to interview for the Jets in the next 3 days. I would imagine that to me is something that you could take it to the bank. That's going to happen. Now, as far as the wild card weekend and the games from this weekend go, right? Not very good. Not very good at all. The game last night, excellent. That one saved the weekend. But as far as the rest of them go, there wasn't a good game in the bunch. Started out with the Ravens and the Steelers, and I know the score says 28-14, but that game was never close. It was non-competitive at times. It was 21-0 at half. The Steelers had 2 first downs in the first half, and you could blame Tom. Like I said, you could blame Tom and all you want. You could have Vince Lombardi coaching the Steelers. You could have, anybody name them coaching the Steelers in that game. They were not beating Lamar Jackson and the Ravens, and it was 28-14 was the final. The Steelers, if you look at the numbers, they got blown out of the water. 29 yards rushing to 299. I mean, when you can't give up 300 yards rushing and win a playoff game, and they got destroyed. It was never close. 28-14 was the final. They got that touchdown in the second half. Kind of made it somewhat respectable at a 14-point game, but that game could have very easily been 42-14. Ravens, no problem getting rid of the Steelers in the wild card round. Then you had the Chargers and the Texans. That was actually the first game. Chargers, again, listen, I'm disappointed in the Chargers. I'm disappointed. The Chargers every single time. They never come up big in a big game. They never do. They never play well. And I thought it would be different with Harbaugh and Herbert. And Herbert, again, listen, he threw 4 picks. He came up small in a big game. 14 of 32, 242 for a touchdown and 4 picks. And they turned Houston over 4 times. And to give it back to them 4 times and to score only 12 points, a major disappointment against the Texans team that was not playing well. Texans haven't played well for over a month coming into this game. They were 11-7, kind of backed into the playoffs as much as you can, maybe besides the Steelers. And the Chargers, who were playing well coming in, went in there and laid an egg. A Harbaugh team who is a great coach by anyone you ask. Herbert, who's one of the top quarterbacks, who I have so much, faith and hope for Herbert every year, and it's the Chargers, and they've been doing this for 50 years. They have a good team. They can't get over the hump. They never play well in a big spot, and they just disappoint. And like I said, I have a buddy who's a Chargers fan. His name's Chris, and I don't even know how you do it, because it's every year. They never play good in a big game. And again, it was today. They went on the road, or Saturday, they went on the road. 32-12 was the final there. Not competitive. So you got Saturday's games, not a good game amongst the two. And then you get to Sunday, and you got the early game is the Broncos and the Bills, right? And you're like, okay, Broncos are going to get slaughtered. This doesn't stand a chance. And then they get first drive, opening drive, touchdown, long pass into the 7-0 Broncos. You're like, okay. And that's all they got. They couldn't get an end. It wasn't the Broncos' fault. The Broncos actually played well. This score, 31-7 was the final. The game was closer than the score indicated. They had a couple chances. They had that fake punt in the first half. There were a couple times where the game was close. It was close at half. It was 10-7 at half. And then in the second half, the Bills just, they imposed their will. Josh Allen with some great throws. He made all the plays. He's MVP candidate, and it sets up a great game next week. But again, not a good game. 31-7. Up until this point, that was your best game. And because it felt close. At times, the Broncos felt like, okay, maybe they have something here. And the Bills just shut them down every time. And then you had the Eagles and the Packers, which was somewhat close, but it was boring. If you watch that Eagles-Packers game was boring. I mean, is there a softer team than the Packers? They were getting run over. They were alligator arms going across the middle multiple times by their receivers, their tight ends. They got hurt seemingly every time they got hit. Somebody was on the turf getting carted off into the locker room. There was that stiff arm where it was just, he got posterized. The terrible tackling. The Packers are a soft football team. The Eagles, they do win 22-10. It was somewhat close, but it was a boring game. Defensive struggle, and I'm not saying defensive games are bad, because generally they're not. Defensive games can be exciting, and they can be good. They can be turnovers. This game was just boring to watch. And then you get to last night, Bucks and Commanders, and this was your game of the weekend. And I told you it was going to be the game of the weekend. And it was a good game. You had Tirico and Collinsworth, who were excellent. Tirico has turned into the best broadcaster, I think. The best play-by-play guy in the country. Tirico is just on point. He makes everything exciting. He's excellent at what he does. And the game itself was good. You had Baker Mayfield, Jaden Daniels getting them down the field. The field goal at the end, the divisional doink off the upright. It was just an all-around good game. There was the turnover late by the Bucks. And give Washington and the Commanders credit. They go in there. They win a road playoff game. The first time they've been in the playoffs for a long time. Give them credit. And it sets up now next weekend. Well, we're going to get to tonight's game in a minute. But it sets up, hopefully we get better games next week. And we have the one game that we all want in Baltimore and Buffalo. That's the one that's going to be a classic. And that's scheduled Sunday. The last game Sunday at 6:30. But you got Houston, Kansas City. I mean, is Houston really going to give Kansas City any kind of trouble? I don't see it. I mean, you could look at Kansas City hasn't played in 3 weeks because they took the week off, and then they had this week off with the bye. They didn't play against Denver. They maybe if Houston can jump on them early, but I don't see it. I don't see it. And a lot of the games just, they haven't been very good. And a lot of the games this season haven't been very good. It hasn't been the greatest NFL season that we've had, certainly. And then at 8 o'clock on Saturday, you got Washington, Detroit. I mean, I don't think Detroit's going to have much trouble with Washington. Washington, they got the young quarterback. That place is going to be loud and raucous. And Detroit is raring to go. This is their year. This is supposed to be the Lions' year. They're raring to go. And then you got Sunday, you got the winner of tonight's game, Minnesota or the Rams against the Eagles. Should be a good game. And then at 6:30 on Sunday, you got the big one, Baltimore and Buffalo. You know, the two MVP quarterbacks. That's going to be a great game. That one I can't wait for. But as far as the games this weekend, not very good. Not very competitive, not very entertaining. I didn't think, I mean, besides the last night, thankfully there was that game last night that saved the weekend. Because there was really, and the only game that was somewhat competitive was the Eagles. And to me, it was boring. I think the Packers are soft. I think that the Eagles, you know, the Eagles somewhat imposed their will. You had Barkley with a good game. The Eagles were a better team than the Packers. I get it. But the Packers, come on. Every time someone got tackled, they were injured. The stiff arm was just the top to top everything off. There were multiple guys pulling their arms going across the middle that didn't want to get hit. They seemed like they didn't want to be there. To me, it was Barkley who had a couple big runs, and then that was it. 22-10. Again, not even that great of a game. And up until, the most of that game was just boring. And then you had the two blowouts on Saturday where the Steelers clearly didn't belong in the same building as the Ravens. And after the opening drive where Denver took a 7-0 lead, it was all Buffalo. And no one expected Buffalo to lose to Denver, right? That wasn't going to happen. Yeah, 7-0, you might have felt. And give Sean Payton credit. He did everything he could. The fake punt, brilliant. He just didn't have the players. And the coach, that's the thing with coaches, they can only make so much of a difference. If you don't have the players, you can't win. He did everything possible. They couldn't get the ball either. Buffalo controlled the ball. They had the ball for like 25 minutes more in time of possession than Denver did. Denver never saw the ball. And it was close at half, and then Buffalo went in at half, came out and said, you know what, well, let's put this thing away. And they did in the third quarter. They went bam, 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 3 straight touchdowns, and it was over. And then last night's game, a good one. You got a feel for Baker Mayfield. He came close. He played a good game, 23-20, and give credit to the Commanders. Going on the road in that atmosphere in Tampa to win that game on a field goal where, I mean, that's as off the upright, the divisional doink, as Collinsworth called it. And we'll play that in a minute. That'll be our call of the week. And just an excellent game, an excellent played football game. It was exciting. It was close. That's what playoff football is. The rest of it, I could have done without it, to be honest with you. So that's where we're at here. The McCarthy, not the coach of Dallas anymore. He's not coming back. He's back. He's on the market now. Will the Jets go after him? Will they not go after him? They're gonna at least interview him. You would hope, at least. Word came out this weekend that they're not interested in Rex. We'll see how true that is. You don't know. Nobody knows. And as far as the Steelers go with Tomlin, they're not getting rid of Tomlin. You'd have to be crazy to get rid of Tomlin. 18 straight winning seasons. I told you, anybody could have. Vince Lombardi could have coached the Steelers in that game. They would have lost the same thing. They would have lost probably 42-14. They weren't winning that game regardless. They don't have the players. They're not as good. Russell Wilson kind of came back down to earth. He had a good 6 weeks to start the season, and then it was crash and burn. They weren't good. They were losing. The whole last month of the season, they were losing. They backed into the playoffs. They limped into the playoffs. So for the NFL overall, I'd say it wasn't a great weekend. You get one out of 4, and then we got tonight. So hopefully, now tonight, I'm not expecting much from tonight either, to be honest with you. I think the Vikings are a much better team. They're 14-3. They kind of got screwed here having to play on the road against a 10-7 team in the Rams, and then they caught a break, if you could call it that, with the game being in Arizona. And the Rams are not as good now. I know the Rams are dangerous, and everybody likes the Rams and the offense and Goff and Stafford and everything that goes along there. But their offense is not as good, and Sam Darnold has been consistently good. Sam Darnold did not play well last week against the Lions in that big game. I get it. But overall, the overall picture of Sam Darnold has been excellent this year. And I expect him to do more of the same, and I expect the Vikings, who are a better team than the Rams, and it's kind of at a neutral site now, which benefits the Vikings. And if you want to look at it, they kind of deserve it. Right? They deserve it to be at a neutral site. Coming in 14-3, and you got to go on the road to play a 10-7 Rams team. Is that real? I mean, I'm not saying that it's wrong, but it sucks. And yeah, they were one win away from having the bye and the home field throughout. They didn't get it done. They didn't get done what they needed to get done to have that, advantage. They lost the game they needed to win. But the fact that people are thinking the Rams are going to come in there and tonight and play well with everything going on at home, these Rams players live in LA too. So their houses are either burning or in danger of being burned. That's on their mind too. Football right now is secondary for this team. And if they were going to come in and beat the Vikings, I don't see it. So I think the Vikings win tonight rather easily, maybe by 10 points in a neutral field. And we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully we get a good game because, like I said, not a good weekend overall for the NFL as far as I'm concerned. I think it was a snooze fest for 3 of the 4 games. We'll see how tonight goes. Tonight, 8 o'clock. It's on ESPN or ABC, I believe. It's a Monday Night Football thing. I don't like the Monday night. I've told you I don't like the Monday night. I don't think it's fair. The team that wins here is going to have to go play Sunday at 3 o'clock. They're going to have a short week. Philadelphia's sitting there after last night's game. They get a whole extra day of rest, of preparation, of putting in a game plan. And it's not really fair. But, billions of dollars, money speaks. So that does it for us here today. Thank you for listening. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Every little bit helps. You leave us a review. Don't forget the voicemails. If you want to have something you got to say to us, a comment or question, anything, www.lockedupsports.net/voicemail to leave us a voicemail, and we'll play it on the air. Also, for all the latest Locked Up Sports, www.lockedupsports.net. So that does it for us. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time, everybody. I'm Bob Walters from the Brian Gunzel Studios. See ya.